I got the call on a Thursday. Jake's voice had that particular pitch it always got when he needed something. Higher than usual, words tumbling over each other. He said Amanda had found the perfect venue. He said the deposit check bounced because of a banking error. He said the coordinator was threatening to release the date. "You've always been there for me," he said, and I heard our childhood in that sentence. Me, age 12, telling Mom it was my fault the lamp broke. Me at 16, lending him my car and lying about the dent. Me at 23, co-signing his first apartment lease. I was looking at my savings account when he said the number, 28,000. It was the inheritance from Grandma Rose. Her whole life reduced to a number that would apparently cover a venue, catering, and a photography package. I'd been thinking about using it for a down payment, maybe in another year. "I'll pay you back right after the honeymoon," Jake said. "Venue's non-refundable, so this is a lifesaver. You'll be my best man. This is our day. Our day." I transferred the money that afternoon. Jake sent back 3 texts, a heart emoji, a champagne bottle, and "I love you, man. You're the best brother anyone could ask for." I screenshot the messages without knowing why. Maybe some part of me was already keeping receipts. The next 2 months felt like being an orbit I couldn't quite enter. I went to the venue walkthrough, took photos of the terrace where they'd do the ceremony. The space had these floor-to-ceiling windows that caught the afternoon light. I mentioned maybe string lights along the ceiling beams. Amanda smiled with her mouth and said, "Jake's handling the family side of things." I should have heard it then. Family side. Like I was a vendor category. I started writing the best man speech in early drafts. Funny story about the time Jake convinced me frogs could be potty trained. Sentimental part about watching him find someone who made him want to be better. I practiced the toast in my bathroom mirror, timing the beats, making sure the joke about his high school haircut landed before the emotional turn. Chris asked me one night if I'd actually been confirmed as best man in writing. We were folding laundry, and he said it carefully, like he was diffusing something. "Jake literally said the words," I told him. "This is our day. I'm his brother." Chris folded one of my shirts with hospital corners and didn't push it, but I saw him glance at my phone when I checked for messages from Jake about tux fittings that never came. 6 weeks out, I asked about the appointment. Jake texted back 4 words. "Amanda's coordinating that stuff." Then nothing for 2 days. When I followed up, he sent a thumbs up emoji. Just that, a thumbs up, like I'd offered to bring napkins. Amanda posted the wedding party photo on a Wednesday. 5 groomsmen on the venue terrace, posed in a line with their jackets slung over their shoulders. Golden hour light. Professional photographer. I recognized 2 of them, Jake's college roommate, Amanda's brother. The other 3 were strangers. I wasn't in it. I sent Jake a text with 1 question mark. He responded 14 hours later. "Oh, that was just Amanda's side coordinating. We'll do another." But the photo stayed up. 43 likes. Amanda's aunt commented, "Such handsome boys." The invitation arrived in a cream envelope with embossed lettering. Our names were printed in a guest list I had to squint to find. My name, plus guest. Not Chris's actual name. Just the placeholder word, like I might bring anyone. Or no one. Below that, in smaller text, adults only reception to follow. I called Jake from my car, hands tight on the steering wheel in my own driveway. "You're reading into things," he said, and I could hear traffic on his end. He was walking somewhere, wanting this conversation to be over before he arrived. "Of course you're involved." Involved how? Jesus, I don't know. We're still finalizing details. Let me handle Amanda. She's particular about the aesthetic. Aesthetic. I looked at the invitation again. The calligraphy. The venue sketch. My $28,000 reduced to someone's aesthetic. 3 weeks before the wedding, Jake texted asking to meet for coffee. He arrived 20 minutes late, ordered an Americano, and didn't take his sunglasses off even though we were inside. "Amanda and I have been talking," he said, looking at his cup. "We're keeping the wedding intimate. Immediate family only." I had seen Amanda's planning binder on the venue table. Guest count, 152. "Immediate family," I repeated. "Her family and our parents. She has relatives flying in from Oregon, and we need to prioritize people who are traveling." The cafe was playing something with acoustic guitar. A woman at the next table was laughing at her phone. The world was continuing like Jake hadn't just said what he'd said. "I gave you $28,000. "That was a gift." His jaw tightened. "You said it was for my happiness." "I said I'd loan you the money. You said you'd pay me back after the honeymoon." "So you're putting a price on family now?" He stood up, chair scraping. "This is exactly why Amanda thinks, never mind. I have a meeting." He left. I sat there for another 10 minutes, then paid for both coffees. $8.47. I kept the receipt. That night I pulled up my bank records. The wire transfer memo read, "Wedding venue deposit. Loan per October 12th phone agreement." I'd written that. Some cautious part of me had documented it even while Jake was thanking me with heart emojis. I scrolled back through our texts. Found the one where he'd written, "I'll pay you back after honeymoon. Venue is non-refundable, so this is a lifesaver." It was still there. Dated, time-stamped, unambiguous. Chris came home and found me at the kitchen table with my laptop open. 3 separate browser tabs showing the venue's Instagram, Jake's Facebook, Amanda's public profile. "Tell me what you're thinking," he said. "Jake bought a BMW." I turned the screen. Amanda had tagged him in a photo 2 weeks after I'd sent the money. Champagne-colored sedan, dealership bow on the hood, caption about new adventures. Chris pulled out the chair across from me. "Keep going." I showed him Amanda's father's LinkedIn. Vice President of Product Development at a tech firm in Bellevue. Her mother's Facebook, photos from their Tuscany vacation, their kitchen renovation, their golden retriever wearing a Burberry scarf. "They're not struggling," I said. "No," Chris agreed. "They're not." I found out from my cousin Lisa that Jake had told the extended family I'd volunteered the money as a wedding gift. That I'd been so moved by their love story, I'd insisted on covering the venue. Lisa said Aunt Joan had cried about it, about how generous I was, about how families should take care of each other. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark kitchen for a while. Chris didn't turn on the lights. The attorney's office was in a converted house downtown, the kind with creaky floors and diplomas in mismatched frames. Her name was Susan Rothman, and she listened to my entire story without interrupting, fingers steepled under her chin. When I finished, she asked to see the texts. Scrolled through them on my phone, nodding occasionally. Pulled up the wire transfer on my laptop. Read the memo line twice. "This is a loan," she said. "The repayment language is unambiguous. 'I'll pay you back' destroys any argument that this was a gift. Even without a written contract, oral contracts are enforceable in this state. Your text messages constitute written evidence of the oral agreement." She leaned back. "Gifts don't include repayment timelines. His own words are the best evidence you could have." She explained the options. Demand letter first, standard practice, 30 days to respond. If he didn't pay, small claims court. The limit in our state was $30,000. My claim would fit perfectly. "What if I wanted to send the demand letter a week before the wedding?" I asked. Susan looked at me for a long moment. "Timing is legally irrelevant. You're requesting return of your property. When you choose to make that request is your prerogative." She paused. "Though I'll note it may impact family relationships. They're already impacted. Her fee was $500 for the demand letter, $1,500 if it went to court. I could recoup those costs in the judgment." I wrote the check with my grandmother's pen. the one with her initials engraved on the cap. The letter arrived at Jake's apartment on a Tuesday via certified mail. He called me at 3:47 p.m. I was in a meeting, saw his name flash across my screen 7 times in a row before I excused myself. "Are you fucking kidding me?" He was screaming. Actually, screaming. A week before my wedding? I was standing in the hallway outside the conference room. Through the window, I could see Chris at his desk, looking at me. I kept my voice level. "You had months to discuss repayment. You chose to disinvite me instead. This is extortion. Amanda's father is a lawyer. We'll bury you. It's not extortion to request return of a loan. See you in court if you need to." I hung up. My hands were shaking. I went to the bathroom and ran cold water over my wrists until they stopped. Amanda sent me an Instagram DM an hour later. "You're a psycho. This is why we didn't want you there." Jake's final text came at 11 p.m. "Mom and Dad know what you're doing. You're dead to this family." I turned my phone off and didn't turn it back on until morning. My parents called an emergency meeting. Just the 3 of us. Jake refused to come. We met at their house, at the same kitchen table where Jake and I had eaten cereal before school for 12 years. Mom was crying before I'd even sat down. "How could you do this? It's his wedding week." I explained about the disinvitation, about the $28,000, about Jake's texts promising repayment. Dad listened with his arms crossed, jaw working like he was chewing something bitter. "Whatever happened between you two, you settle it after," he said. "You're being selfish." He banned me from the wedding I funded. "Maybe you were too involved." Mom's voice went soft, conciliatory. "Amanda might have felt crowded." They offered me $10,000. Said they'd pull it from their retirement account if I dropped the lawsuit. "Family doesn't sue family," Dad said. "This isn't about money anymore." I stood up. "It's about respect." Mom's parting words, delivered from the porch, as I walked to my car. "Don't come to Christmas if you go through with this." I had 47 missed calls by the time I got home. Cousins, aunts, my grandmother. Jake had activated the phone tree. Chris was waiting on the couch with takeout he'd picked up, even though neither of us ate it. The only supportive text came from Maya, my youngest cousin. She was 22, finishing college. "Jake's been an asshole for years. Someone needed to check him." I didn't sleep that night. Lay in bed scrolling through old photos. Jake and me at Disneyland, his arm around my shoulders. Jake at my college graduation, holding a sign he'd made. Jake at Grandma Rose's funeral, squeezing my hand during the eulogy. The wedding was on a Saturday. Chris and I went hiking, 2 hours inland, deliberately out of cell range. I kept my phone on airplane mode. We didn't talk about it. That night I turned my phone back on. Instagram stories loaded one after another. The venue terrace I'd photographed, now filled with white roses and hanging Edison bulbs. Amanda in a dress I later learned cost $8,000. The ice sculpture, the champagne tower. Maya sent me a photo of the guest favors. Custom Italian leather keychains with Jake and Amanda's initials embossed in gold. She included a caption. These were $40 each. I counted 150. I did the math in my head. BMW, $45,000, probably financed, but still. Honeymoon in the Maldives based on Amanda's stories. $15,000, conservatively. The dress, the favors. Over $90,000 in expenses while Jake had claimed poverty. Chris and I watched a movie I don't remember. I checked my phone 3 times. He asked once if I was okay. "I will be," I said. Day 31 after the demand letter, I filed the suit. Jake and Amanda were somewhere over the Pacific, returning from their honeymoon. I filed electronically, breach of oral contract, loan repayment, $28,000 in principal, plus court costs. The exhibits were attached as PDFs, text messages, bank transfer, demand letter, Certified mail receipt. The filing fee was $435. I thought about Jake leaving me with the coffee bill. Court date was set for mid-January, 6 weeks out. The sheriff served Jake 3 days after he returned. Jake left me a voicemail I didn't listen to for 2 days. When I finally played it, he was incoherent with rage. "You actually fucking did it. Amanda's dad is getting us a real lawyer. You're going to lose everything." Susan called me that evening. His response tells me he has no defense. Hiring an attorney for small claims is actually overkill. Judges tend to prefer plain language from the parties themselves. The local newspaper published a list of new court filings every week. It was routine public records reporting, the kind of thing nobody usually read. But in a town of 30,000, people noticed names they recognized. My phone started buzzing with texts from high school acquaintances I hadn't spoken to in years. The courthouse was older, built in the 70s, with wood paneling and fluorescent lights that hummed. Chris and I arrived 20 minutes early. I had a 3-ring binder with tabbed sections: bank records, text messages, demand letter, Instagram evidence. Jake and Amanda walked in with a man in a suit that cost more than my car payment. He looked irritated to be there, kept glancing at his watch. The lawyer, I assumed. Amanda's father. The corporate tax attorney who'd probably billed them $3,000 to sit in small claims court. The judge was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain. She reviewed the filings without expression, then asked Jake's attorney to present his defense. "This was a gift between family members," he said, standing. "No written contract exists. Moreover, the plaintiff has unclean hands. The timing of this filing was deliberately calculated to cause maximum embarrassment during my client's wedding." The judge looked at Jake. "Did you use the words, 'pay you back,' when receiving this money?" Jake shifted. We had an understanding. Family doesn't." "Yes or no, Mr. Holbrook?" "Yes, but I meant eventually. Like, someday." The judge pulled up the texts on her monitor, turned it so the courtroom could see. Read aloud in a flat voice. "I'll pay you back after honeymoon. Venue is non-refundable, so this is a lifesaver." She looked at Jake. "The honeymoon ended in November. It's now January." The attorney tried to argue that Amanda's family wealth was irrelevant. The judge cut him off. "It's relevant to good faith. Continue." I presented the bank records, the Instagram screenshots, the BMW, the Maldives sunset photos, the leather keychains. The judge asked Jake directly why he hadn't responded to the demand letter. "It was our wedding week," he said, and his voice cracked. "You had 30 days. You were given proper notice. The timing of your wedding isn't this court's concern." She took 11 minutes to review her notes. The clock on the wall ticked. Amanda was crying silently, mascara tracking down her face. Jake was staring at the table. "Judgment for the plaintiff," the judge said. $28,000 plus $435 in court costs plus $1,500 in attorney fees. Total $29,935. Payment plan of $1,500 per month for 20 months. First payment due in 14 days. I nodded once. Didn't smile. Chris put his hand on my shoulder. We walked out through the side exit while Jake and Amanda were still at their table, the expensive lawyer packing his briefcase with sharp, angry movements. Jake appealed. The appeal was dismissed after 30 days. The judge's findings were well documented, the evidence unambiguous. The first payment arrived on day 17, 3 days late. Susan filed a wage garnishment notice. Jake's employer processed it without comment. Regional bank, HR department that dealt with this routinely. His paychecks were docked automatically, $1,500 taken before he ever saw the money. My parents didn't speak to me for 7 months. Maya did, quietly. She told me Jake had borrowed $5,000 from Grandma Rose 2 years before she died, never repaid it. Grandma had forgiven it because she'd felt sorry for him. Maya said it like she wanted me to know I wasn't the first. Amanda's father, the lawyer, had been corporate tax for 30 years. No litigation experience. They'd paid him $3,000 to sit in court and make arguments that any first-year law student could have dismantled. An old college friend sent me a Facebook request after seeing the court story make its way through mutual connections. "Holy shit," his message said. "Jake borrowed $800 from me in 2019. He ghosted me." 6 months later, I'd received $9,000 of the judgment. Jake's payments were sporadic. Every missed payment meant more paperwork, more enforcement. It was exhausting in a way I hadn't anticipated. Not the money, the constant having to push, to document, to follow up. My parents sent a birthday card. Generic drugstore card, both their signatures, no message beyond "Happy Birthday." It was the first contact in 7 months. I put it on the fridge, didn't call them. Maya invited us to her college graduation. Jake and Amanda were there. I saw them across the parking lot afterward. Amanda was arguing with him, her voice carrying. "I told you we should have just paid him back." Jake saw me watching. We made eye contact for 3 seconds. He turned away first. 1 year after the court date, the final payment arrived. Jake had refinanced the BMW, Maya told me later, through the family grapevine. Lump sum, $19,935. The balance. I deposited it mobile, sitting in my car after work. Stared at my bank account. The number was back to where it had started, minus the legal fees, minus the hours of sleep, minus my parents' voices on holidays. Chris asked me that night if it had been worth it. We were loading the dishwasher, normal domestic rhythm. I thought about it. Really thought. "I didn't do it for the money," I said. "I did it because I needed to stop being the person people thought they could use." I remembered being 12. Jake breaking my favorite action figure, then crying until I apologized to him for leaving it where he could step on it. I remembered our parents pulling me aside. "Be the bigger person. He's younger. He doesn't understand." 30 years of being the bigger person, and I'd gotten smaller every time. Jake sent one text, a week after the final payment. "Paid. We're even. Lose my number." I didn't respond. Didn't block him either. Just let the message sit there, unread receipted. I donated $5,000 to a legal aid clinic that handled family disputes. Wrote the memo line, "In memory of Rose Holbrook." Grandma would have understood, I thought. Or maybe she wouldn't have. Maybe that didn't matter anymore. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. They don't tell you that you're the one who has to eat it. But at least I'd chosen the meal instead of being fed scraps.